This is no. See,
Would it be a call?
all of that stuff there is now dead. That's I was explaining to these guys. Google changed everything, but when you search for their information, all the old information comes up. But last September, the platform completely changed.
It's a better platform, but unexplained.
Unexplained. So now we're broadcasting live on YouTube.
Oh.
Anybody can join in if they want to.
YouTube.
On YouTube.
By anybody, you're talking about anybody's invited.
No, we're live
So
in the ether at this point.
anybody can see me when I'm teaching?
Yeah,
There's no, because you're.
but they don't know you're here. We haven't
Because
promoted
you're
it.
going to the Adobe platform? Is that-
No, this is still Google. I haven't even
Wow.
tried to set up the Adobe platform yet.
So you go to YouTube and.
I have no idea.
What's it called?
I'm not even trying. I'm live.
Want me to send you the link?
Yeah.
Send me the link.
These guys ask questions like they think I actually know the answers.
You don't know what they call it's called on YouTube? It's on YouTube now.
Are we on YouTube?
Well,
now?
I'm not. I'm gonna
Go to my channel. Search for Tom Pesky.
Oh.
See if it pops up. I have my own channel.
Oh, I gotta get the app.
Everybody's
He's got an app.
Get that up out there.
Okay, you got philosophy for formation.
Can't touch anything right now.
What's it called?
You guys can move. So
That's
my
what I'm
group
saying.
for Father Lou. Yeah.
So
You can't touch anything.
you need the board.
I need like back to the board. You guys, you guys need, if you could move, try to get back to the board so that anybody that can do it.
Who else would send this to you right now, Mike? Yeah, philosophy. That's me.
That's you?
That's us.
Wow. Mr. Phil Philosophy.
Yeah.
Wow, look at that.
You're on. Cool.
We'll do. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna mute it.
Is Sister Donald able to connect on? Do you think it's?
We're working on Sister Donald.
So this is gonna be on YouTube now?
Yes, you'll be able to watch it afterwards.
This is really.
Oh, but not live,
You can watch it live.
on YouTube.
Yeah,
And then I can watch it again.
you sure can. You do whatever the hell you want.
If I can't sleep, I'll watch it
I
again.
seem a little short this evening, gentlemen. It's been a trying.
Actually, I thought that worked pretty good.
You're seeing me right there. Everything's
I am.
good. Uh-oh, I'm on delay.
Yeah, just a little bit.
But I lost the original thing. Okay, here's the original. No, it's not. I'm gonna close that. There we go.
That, see, I can do this.
So you're on there. All right,
I just have it muted.
good. That's a good thing.
I like the live version.
Yeah.
This automatically records what we're going to do tonight. And so it's available on YouTube after we're done.
That's great.
And you can also download it and put it into. All right, let me see if I can get Sister done here. Poor sister. She's trying so hard, so patient. Hi, Sister, it's Tom. Hi. Any success?
I got 20 minutes.
Oh, so you got those guys?
Yeah. That link you just sent me.
Okay.
Here.
Just came. If you click that link, Those two, go back to Tony Miller. Okay, do you see me? Do they see me?
They see me.
They see you.
Thank you.
Join the hangout, yes. You got Guillermo, their sister. So all these people are here and I don't see them.
You can use my phone if you want.
You guys, ask if they can see me, please.
Can they see, can you see Tom at all? They see me. See, they're looking at me through
They're looking at you through the phone.
the phone,
But
yeah.
you click the link.
I clicked on the link, yeah.
All right. This is the craziest.
It's also available on YouTube.
Right.
See, that's where I am right now. I'm looking, here I am on YouTube. Yes, sir.
Yes. Tom Osborne.
St.
James.
Good to see you.
Yes, man. How you doing?
Good. Bless you. How's your mom? Yeah, I get the back. Father passed.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear
So they
that.
still don't pick up me.
That was-
Oh, I really appreciate that.
Nice to see you.
Dad.
Yeah.
I tell you guys, working on it.
My old guy, short fisherman. It's Casey, those guys.
So good.
Nice to see
Is
you.
your mom still living here?
We're in, yes.
We're good.
Nice to see you.
Good to see you.
Sorry to interrupt.
No interruption at
So
all.
you're watching, so you're watching me. Why aren't they?
Just go.
You went to the
He's
same
watching
link.
I
He's
went
on
to
YouTube.
YouTube and I put your name in it. And then it said philosophy.
Let's ask him to do.
That's easy.
Explain it to them back here.
Do you have them all on audio? Can they all hear?
Yeah, here. Go ahead.
You can hear me? Sister? Okay. Turn it up. There's usually up on your keyboard, sister, if it's a laptop, there will be like a little speaker icon. One of them will increase the volume and one of them will decrease the volume. Got it? There you go. So that you can see, you don't want to see me, but you do want to see Father Lou, who's going to be, I'm going to switch the computer on a second and Father Lou will be on. I want you to ask you to go to YouTube, youtube.com, that would be faster. And then I'm going to ask you to search for my name, Tom Kuski. Because this is on my channel. Why this link isn't working, I don't know. It's the link that YouTube gave me. You want to be over on this side. You want to be the star of the show.
He's switching
Yeah. You'll be able to hear it. YouTube.com. Under search, my name, Tom, Cusaey.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, sister. That you have to open it. Oh, there goes sister. She does this.
Yeah.
When you get to my page, you'll see philosophy or formation. If you click on that, you'll be able to see the live feed. The camera is now on you, Father.
Oh,
So
hello.
don't,
Is he there?
not yet.
But yeah.
We're working on it.
The most important one in this planet. The rest of these guys.
Irma, how you doing? Are you on YouTube? Okay, I need you to go to YouTube. You not hear that part? YouTube. Yes, everybody. I want everybody to go to youtube.com. I have stock in YouTube. So every time you go there, I make money. Go to youtube.com and then search under my name, Tom Kuski, and my channel will come up. And Philosophy for Formation is something you can click on. It's got more books on the Amazon. I'm telling you right now, this is awful. Yeah, you won't be hanging out, which is a good thing. Which you'll be watching this on YouTube.
One of the games. His sister told me.
Cuskey.
Work out the box. Basically.
EY.
It's funny. My name is in the
She says she's watching the YouTube channel.
Oh, God.
Oh, no, Tony is sitting there. Okay, so Tony's okay.
Yeah.
It's YouTube. And I'm going to call sister in a minute. See how
Did you
she's
guys
doing.
get all of these?
Yeah.
Did you find
Did you find me?
Good. Individual ideas.
I did.
Guys, hold on, please. Hold on. You're on YouTube, and you searched under my name, Tom Kuski. Guillermo? Yes. You see Father Lou now. Okay, I'm going to hang up. It's been nice talking with you, though. God bless you. I'll let you. All right. Let me call sister and get her on board, and then there's this weird chirping noise. Miller says it's because I live up in the boondocks. Hello, sister. This is Tom. Yeah, Father Lou. Excellent. Okay. The only challenge that we have right now will be questions. I'm going to probably else to the camera so that everybody knows what to do,
Right.
and we'll go from there. Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you for your patience, sister. Bye-bye. Okay.
You're good? You're in your role? Oh, that's
Let me just.
Yeah, take your time.
Pardon? That's Father Lou's. I was going to set that up for a LB Connect.
Oh, you're on my phone. There we go.
Here I go. I'm on delay. This is freaking me. Everybody that's watching from home, thank you very much for your patience. First of all, this is our first run with this, and it's a little buggy. We've had to make a few changes, but enough said about that. Here's the important part. If you have questions during the class this evening, what I'm going to ask you to do is to either email them to me. I have my iPad here. I can read your emails. Or if you want to text them to me on the phone, pen in hand, I'll give you both the email address and the phone number in case you need them. You guys can just offer your questions. Everybody picks up
No,
their.
it might
what I
be
want.
just for future reference if we're out.
There you go. You bet. The email address is T is in Tom, and then my last name, CUSKEY @gmail.com. My phone number is 315-439-3485. That's 315-439-3485. So if you text me your questions or email me a question, I will pass them on to Father Lou so that he can address them during the class. You can also, if you have any questions about anything, technical questions about what's going on, if you run into a problem, obviously send them along as well. Thank you again for your patience. Appreciate it so much. We'll get this better refined as we move forward. So here's Father Lou.
Thank you all, first of all, for your interest in the course. and your willingness to participate in this first effort to do something online. You know, Sister Donald and I have been talking about this for far too many years. And it's really thanks to Sister Donald's encouragement that we're here tonight, you know, doing this and offering it as an online course as well as present class here. So I welcome you all. Just out of curiosity, who is participating from a distance online?
Guillermo,
Guillermo's there? Yeah.
Tony,
Tony, good.
and Sister. We have three people that are on.
Very good. That's helpful for us, quite frankly, because we don't know, you know, some of the bugs we need to work out without the three of us being willing to tolerate, you know, this kind of classroom format. It's really important for us to move down the road this way because there's more that we can do for more of it. You know, by having opportunities to get people part of the class. I'm going to apologize to Tony, to Sister Guillermo, because the reality is I'm familiar with this process. As you guys know that have been in class with me, much more, you know, didactic and interactive. You know, even if I'm not moving around, I'd like to be somehow identifying myself as moving around by looking and challenging and all the rest. This is different because I can't help it. At some point throughout reflection, and I've been thinking about those that can't really react. So that's why we've got time available to us to be taking questions. You know, is that eventually it can be even far more interactive than waiting for somebody to pick up a question and pass it on to me. But right now, it's something like ambulation. I have trouble walking and chewing gum at the same time. I think tonight I may have a little bit of trouble getting questions, responding, keeping the class going. So pardon it. I know get better at it as we go along. I think Sister for encouragement. You know, I had the idea of having a philosophy for those who are really studying a number of years ago. And Sister came, and I just was kind of intrigued within myself and had done some reading about it. And Sister came to me and said, our guys are really behind the eight ball because they really have not been exposed to philosophical thinking. And so the handmaiden theology is philosophy. And we're going to get into why that becomes important for us. You'll see it more clearly as her presentations, the parallel that happens between the way of thinking and then thinking about our faith. Because in fact, we are thinking about our faith when we're doing theology. We're doing exactly what St. Augustine said. Faith seeks to understand it. You know, and the way I like to think of it is this. When you love something or someone, you just can't help but wanting to know more about it. Am I not right? And that's exactly what happens in theology. It's faith seeking understanding. It's saying we love the Lord. We love our faith. We love what God has given to us. We want to know more. But as human beings, I'm going to use, I think, an interesting concept. We're limited. We're limited to our brain to be able to understand, to be able to think. And we have to have some medium through which to think. Theology needs philosophy. But tonight, what I'm going to do is two parts. The first part will be going through the course a little bit so that we're all on the same page and we all understand what's going to be happening as the course unfolds. I hope that won't take more than 10 or 15 minutes. It's really going to be going over what we've already gone over, but we haven't done it all together. And it's kind of like dates and stuff like that and how there's an interaction between sisters' presentations and you're working online together as a class without sister being there, etc. And maybe a little bit going through the books. The other thing I want to get into is something that I think is actually essential if you're going to be studying philosophy at any level. You got to understand the basic tools. And believe it or not, the basic tools are pretty simple. They really are about language and thinking. Simple as that. Oh, it seems simple until you start getting at it a little bit. Tonight, we're going to be looking at the basics of thinking and communicating and conceptualizing in language, because that's what philosophers do. They think, they talk using language, and concepts unfold between them to unfold or unpack the world around us. So that's what we're going to get at a little bit tonight. First off, though, the first part, just taking 10 minutes, is to look a little bit at what we worked out this last time, and what you got in front of you, by the way, is a work in progress for 3 years, which kept on changing. So if something isn't quite in order on the second page, it's only because it's still picking up some stuff from 3 years ago. You know what I mean? The first page is the most important. let's talk, you should have had this downloaded, you didn't, you know, have that extra copy of here. What we're looking at now, Sister Guillermo and, what else did you say? And
Tony.
And Tony, is, you know, just the outline for the course itself. I just want to take a few minutes to go through it to make sure we're all on the same page. So, fundamentals of philosophy for theology, and as you can see, there are dates that are identified both in June, July, August, September, October, and November. You'll note that some of those dates are in, maroon. The dates in maroon are the dates that Sister is going to be teaching online. So let's just take a look at those dates first. And Sister, you can confirm them if you will, even tonight with Tom. If there's something that's askew, please jump right in and let us know. Tom will pick up whatever you're going to send him. First of all, her dates for teaching, we've got her August 9th, August 23rd, October 4th, October 18th, and November 1st. So I'm going to ask the question, and then Sister, you can, as best you can, communicate back. Does that match your schedule, your teaching schedule? 9th, 23rd, 4th, 18th, 4th of October, 18th of October, and November 1st. That's what we had talked about, at least, and what we had put down in our notes. Is something coming in?
No,
That looks
setting up
good.
that other
Okay,
bumper.
good. But you'll also note there are other dates here that are in black. Those are the work sessions, the student class online work sessions. So in other words, outside of the presentation classes like I am tonight, we're hoping that you're going to work together as a class.
Is that reverse color coded? Because on mine.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, I'm sorry. I made a mistake. Excuse me. There. Thank you very much. Let me revisit that. Cancel that out about the color code. Look at the ones in black are the instruction dates in star. Excuse me. Thank you for picking that up. So obviously, sisters instruction dates are July 12th and 19th, September 13th and 27th, October 11th, November 8th. Thanks, Tim. And then obviously I'm teaching tonight. So they're starred and they're in black. So Sister will be coming back online for the next class on July 12th. She'll follow that out the following week, July 19th. And then she'll come back in September 13th and the 27th. And then again, she'll be teaching online October 11th, and then again, November 8th. Now, our hope is that those who are in the southern tier will make every effort to get to Windsor, to the monastery, so that she'd be teaching a live class. And that our other hope is that there'll be somebody down there that's going to do all the technical to make sure the others are logged in. So we're going to do the best we can to make sure all that is in place. I'm sure we will. Now, besides that, we're hoping that you as a class will be willing to work with each other. And as often as you want, we encourage it, but at least that you be willing to come online together August 9th and 23rd, October 4th, October 18th, and November 1st. And that's the ones that are in Europe. So our idea is that this is a very interesting opportunity for us to see how a class works and interacts with each other, and perhaps works on assignments or discusses readings outside of the lecture, outside of the instructor's presentation. Now, quite frankly, we don't do much or any of that in the program. So this is an interesting way of seeing how we can augment the learning dimensions of our program by looking to see for student and class to work together outside and separate from the class itself, the class instruction itself. So I'm really excited about that, because quite frankly, I know for a fact that you guys learn as much from yourselves as you do from the instructors. I know it. You've reflected it to me many different times. So we're going to make every effort to help use that as a tool for your formation. So those are the dates that we're looking for. Sisters course, which is representing that whole section, July 12th through November 8th, will be more exclusively, and for lack of a better way, but a simpler way to kind of consolidate the primary work in this course, will be about Plato and Neoplatonic philosophy and thinking. Okay, so in that context, she's going to be, not only helping all of us understand, that basic context of thinking, Plato and Neoplatonic thinking, which is also going to be introducing us to Augustinian, or St. Augustine, if you will, theology, because, if you will, St. Augustine's using Plato, I won't say exclusively, but almost exclusively throughout his whole work. And you can see it. You can see the way he thinks. You can see the way he expresses himself. And sisters are going to help us to see that. When you get that, you're going to be able to see that in other documents that the church continues to present to us. And as well, you're going to be able to understand, even on a deeper level, the history and tradition of the church. Okay? And as well, and most importantly, she's going to be, and from my point of view, it's an excitement, she's also going to be introducing us to St. Bonaventure and his theology. So I love that because I love St. Bonaventure. I studied with the Franciscans and had the privilege, if you will, to be introduced to Bonaventure thinking and philosophy. The Franciscans would say St. Bonaventure was just as important as St. Thomas. But the Franciscans got robbed of their heritage because Thomas just seemed to win the hierarchy's mind and heart. And so we've really been predominantly, shall we say, we've been predominantly infused with Thomistic thinking. But St. Bonaventure has a world of theology and philosophy that is incredibly magnificent, that helps us to understand our faith on a very deep level. Sister's going to introduce us to that. And we thank you, Sister, for it. There are 3 texts that you guys already have. There's one that's called Philosophy for Understanding Theology. That's the primary text, okay? And we'll be giving you readings out of that to just help you understand where we're going with our lectures. The other one is readings in philosophy. Look at it. You don't need to read everything about Plato or Aristotle to understand them. You can be introduced to their thinking and their approach philosophically by just certain, if you will, excerpts or certain textual parts of their writing. And we believe that it's going to be able to introduce you to this whole notion of what philosophy does for theology without having to spend years and multiple courses, which is often the case, as an undergirding for doing theology. We really believe strongly we can get you there without having to, if you will, get a minor or degree in philosophy. So this book will be important to you because we're going to be identifying readings that we think are important for you to be going through in order to understand what the lectures are going to be about. The last thing are 101 key terms in philosophy and their importance for theology. Look at it. Everything has its own language. I went to the doctor today, and he started talking to me in medical language. And quite frankly, at the times that I was lost. Because physicians, the world of medicine, has its own language. We got engineers here. They're going to have their own language. And technicians have their own language. There are different words that are used and put together as a way of expressing a particular way, also thinking or a professional life in this world. And for us, in studying philosophy, what you're going to find here are the most significant terms or concepts or ideas that will be used by language in their importance. And again, we'll be pushing you through them. Okay? So those are the 3 texts we're going to ask you to look at, and along the way, we'll be giving you some readings to work with. Okay? Our hope is that when you guys are doing some reading, especially if you kind of get stuck, you're going to be online with each other to talk about it, and also appeal to us, so that we can help you get through something that might be a roadblock for you. Okay? But working together, including your readings, is exactly what this process is about. Any thoughts, questions, concerns? By the way, Sisters is only the first third of the course, but in effect, her course is standalone. It could be a course in itself. It is a course in itself, quite frankly. In the university, it might be two courses. There'll be two other sections that will be following this. One will be Aristotle and St. Thomas, and then there'll be modern philosophers, which I'm not going to go into any depth right now, but just know there's two other parts to the course that will be subsequently coming up. All right? The only one we're interested in being concerned about is within the front page. Okay, enough of that. Let's get into the task at hand tonight. Let me see what our timeline is. See that? We've already cut through that. Look at. I gave you guys a two-page reflection on words and concepts in analysis as the primary tools of philosophy. And I hope you read through it because it kind of give you an idea as to some of the problems that exist when we're doing theology, and also even when you're reading the scripture or trying to understand, how the early Christians or our Lord himself might have thought at the time of those early Christians. What those 2 pages were saying is the presence of our faith at any particular time is conditioned by the way in which people talk. It's as simple as that. And words become very important for us. The reality, too, is that words change meaning. There's now a basic meaning to a word. And if you were to look it up for example, in Webster's dictionary, you're going to see the etymology of the word identified, sometimes in Latin first or whatever the primary language would be. And then, from there, it'll be extrapolated to give the meaning of it by giving different synonyms and then at times antonyms. So this is predominantly the way in which you can understand the word by putting together 20 other words around it. And then they'll sometimes say, this is what the word doesn't mean. Okay? So I want to lead you through somewhat of an exercise right now. Like that. Okay? I want to choose one word, and the word is church. And what I'm going to ask you to do is each person to give me a word that represents the word church from your point. Okay? So let's just put that. So church is the word we're working with. Okay? Okay. So if I say to you church, my presumption is that it immediately starts within you some idea or notion of what church means. Okay? So Matt, when I say the word church, what does that mean to you? Without using the word church, give me another word that represents church.
Congregation.
Congregation. Okay. Community.
Faith.
Faith.
Sacraments.
Sacraments.
Place of worship.
Place of worship.
The physical structure.
Yep. Yeah.
Haven.
Haven. Now, I'm not going to let you guys off the hook. We're going to keep going around. By the way, I've done this probably 100 times in the last 30 years. And what's interesting is that already there are words here in this lexicon that represents this word church that I've never seen before in the 100 times I've done it in the last 30 years. Isn't that interesting? Like, for example, I have never seen the word Eden. But that's great. I've seen some notion of place of worship and others. But that's a brand new one. We're going to maybe unpack that in a little bit. But before we do that, we have to do another one. Home.
Prayer.
Prayer. Okay. Family. Family. No.
Mystical body.
Mystical body. Huh?
Conflict.
Conflict. Now look, we take one word and we start to build a lexicon of words around it to identify what the word means. And you might almost say, you know, it's basically an exercise in semantics. Maybe, maybe not. Because if when you're preaching, you use the word church from the pulpit, and you've got over a weekend 1,000 people listening to your presentation, your homily.
Somebody had
You can
lazy.
Yeah, someone's got ecclesia.
Totally.
Yeah. Anybody else coming up there? You can be sure that the 1,000 people who preach you over the weekend will hear that word in a different way than other people sitting next to them, and perhaps even the way that you ever intended it. Because in their mind, it's representing something that's happening at that point relative to their need or their experience. So, you know, part of the problem, if you will, part of the process that we all have to go through as budding philosophers is to think carefully about the words we use, to think what they mean or what else they could mean, or how to best clarify our meaning about a particular word when in fact we're intending to use it. And what I just said to you is the work of a philosopher. It's to clarify the meaning of something that's happening in the world at a particular time. It can be seen very simple and very ordinary. Okay? Want me to give you an example? I'll give you an article, or 2 pages of an article from Professor Tom Green. I just want us to take a look at it so you get the point I'm making. His article is called Unwrapping the Ordinary, the Philosophical Projects. So if you don't mind, I'm going to read it, but I'll read it with emphasis from my point of view of its significance. Okay. Now remember, we've just gone through a word exercise. And I said to you, those words and building a thesaurus around a particular word helps us to identify what the word means, at least to different people and in different circumstances. And the work of a philosopher is to unpack that meaning. So let's see what Professor Green has to say to us about that process. He says, ordinary life, like the real world, is an expression often used among academics to refer to such everyday things as ordering lunch, getting a haircut, or finding a place to park. However, when a talk used in these ordinary affairs becomes the object of discussion, then we've left the ordinary and enter the academic, or if you will, the work of the philosopher, the world of the philosopher. Mixing the two is sometimes a source of amusement, and sometimes simply a sign of bad taste. So I say to the waiters, I'll have the apple pie. A pretty ordinary statement, right? And you can immediately presume what it's meant by the statement. I'll have an apple. I'll have the apple pie. And my philosophically inclined companion asks, referring to my statement, not my decision, is that a prediction, an order, or the expression of a hope? 2 different ways, or 3 different ways of taking the same statement. You get the point relative to the problem. Right? The waitress returns and says, it's a good thing you chose the apple pie because that's all we have left. And my companion asks, did you choose? After all, there were no choices. That's the philosophical point. Was it really a choice? There were no choices here. Good thing you chose the apple pie because there's no cherry or raspberry out there. Oh, the word choice doesn't really apply relative to a particular way of looking at the state. You see the problem? What does it mean? That's the point of the problem of a philosopher. What does it mean? So let me give you one of the ancient ones, one of the classical ones, so that you don't think I'm just making this thing up. Aristotle, in his work, the Nicomachean Ethics, his work on the ethics, introduces the world of the virtues. He starts out with this, you might find this somewhat interesting as an educator. He starts out with this basic thing that human beings are born as empty vessels, and they have to be filled with something. Okay? And his basic theme is that they're either going to be filled with the eudaimonia, you meaning like in Greek, good, like euthanasia is the good death, there can be one. Daimonia meaning demon or spirit, the good demon, or the not so good. And we're either educating our children to one, or they're going to be filled with something else. So education is all about teaching them about the eudaimonia and helping them to acquire them by habit. And he identifies a number of what's called philosophical virtues that are necessary for living life with happiness, especially within a community. And one of them, he says, is courage. So that's the one I want to focus in on. And he basically says, a courageous person does things as courageous people do them. It seems like a circular point. But when you get at his thinking, you'll see the problem that we're getting at in the point, and just show you that these classical philosophers were dealing with exactly what we're talking about in the beginning of our class, in using words and asking ourselves, what do those words mean? How do we apply them? What's the right word? And how can we explain one way of thinking about it against another? And if we can't do that, we could easily be lost in a world of semantics. So our job is to make sure that when we're using a word, people understand what we mean by it. Because as we've seen with the waitress situation, you use one statement, it can be understood and applied in different ways. All right. So in the world of the courageous and the courageous, if you're looking at it, I'm not going to get into depth, he goes on and on about talking about what a courageous person is and what a courageous person isn't. And he gives all kinds of metaphors to help you understand what he's talking about in the process of it. First, he's basically talking about courage relative to warfare, because obviously, if you're going to have a community that sustains stuff, you need to have people, who are willing to enter into protecting the community, even at the cost of their own life. But he does get into some very interesting parallels. Like, for example, he would ask the question in a kind of way, is a courageous person a person who has no fear? If you're in the middle of a war, and the enemy's coming at you, and you have absolutely no fear, and you charge the enemy, and you succeed in the charge, have you really been a courageous person? Why not?
That's a thing. Yeah. Courage doesn't mean lack of fear, it means being able to
Overcome it. So a courageous person who does things as courageous people do it is presumed that the courageous person is a person who has fear, or is capable of having fear, but can modulate that fear, moderate it against something else. But to imagine that he goes into warfare without any fear, he'd have to be crazy. So therefore, he may be a crazy person, but he's not a courageous person. There you go. You've gotten into the philosophical world. Okay? And you're already unpacking the ordinary. We're unpacking the ordinary. We're just talking about courage. But the presumption is that not everything is what it appears to be. A crazy man charging, an Omaha beach, and the first wave, all of those guns that are firing down on the first wave coming in and mowing them down, but has absolutely no fear, might win a medal at the end of it. But really isn't a courageous person, even though it appears to be something that he's doing. It's courageous. So to some degree, you might want to say the work of Aristotle is to be able to identify the difference between, what's the first word I used? Appearance and reality. How something appears as compared to how something really is. If you wanted to reduce his whole project philosophically to something very simple or simplistic, that would be the way I would do it. The sister was going to get into with Plato, it's a little bit different. He saw the world in ideals, but he also realized that what we were entering into in the ideal was not necessarily represent its perfection, because many things are in process. So that at some point, you look at something that hasn't reached its fullness or its full representation of what it is. It's not the idea, but it's different varying points along the way of reaching that ideal. It's in the process. So his project, if you want to become very simplistic, like you say, can we identify the difference not between appearance and reality, but the process of something as compared to what it is in its fullness at a particular point. Now, I'm not going to go in depth any more deeply into those different kinds of philosophical dimensions, other than to give you an idea of what it means for us. When the church uses these thinkers, their way of thinking is deeply embedded in the documents that are presented to us. And understanding helps you to be able to appreciate and more fully understand the documents. So we'll get to that hopefully by the end. But you can see where we're going with it. So what's our task tonight? Well, it's first of all to understand what words are and what they mean and how they are represented in concepts, and then how we can best enter into a process of analyzing the words so that we can identify their best meaning when they're being used, or at least to ask the question when you see a word, what does it mean? What does it actually mean, either from the author's point of view or from those who are receiving it? Okay, any questions? Pretty comfortable with what I'm saying? Okay, so let me go back a little bit. If I were to use, I've used the word courage and I've used the word church. Let me give you another C word. How about if I use the word cat? If I use the word cat, what comes to mind? A pet. That's what cats are. And what they do. But when I first say to you cat, what first comes to mind? An animal. This furry little thing. A thing. In that particular context, the word is being used as a symbol, a linguistic symbol, a symbol to represent a thing. Because those three letters, C-A-T, are not the thing. They're only a representation of the thing. They're a symbol of it. So one way in which your words are used are simply to convey symbolically things. But that's much different from the word church, mostly. Because the word church is representing not just a thing. Or better yet, let's look at the word courage. If we use the word courage, does a thing come to mind? No. When we use the word courage, an idea comes to mind. A concept comes to mind. So in that usage of words, it's conveying a concept. So words are used to represent things so that we can communicate about them without actually hauling them into the room and putting it before us. They're also used to convey ideas. I'd like to suggest that the CAT is not an idea. It's the image of a thing. But courage is an idea. Now, what's interesting, when we went through that process of looking at the word church, I'd like to suggest that in its own way, and that's what makes the usage of the word a little bit more difficult. Both. Right? A thing. Tim did that for us, isn't it? Tim said it's a place of worship. That's a thing. Correct? But there's also a concept that's being portrayed. Holy, sacred, Christ. Those are concepts. They're ideas that are meant to convey meaning in a particular kind of way. So part of what we have to do in the theological world, as we do in the philosophical world, is to present those concepts in a way that when I use the word, it is truly conveying the intention that I wanted to convey. Make sense? Okay. So let me show you something that was written. And unfortunately, Sister Guillermo and Tony don't have this. I apologize. Something I pulled out about 2 hours ago. I've got some more to it. So we'll make sure that we get it down to you. But I think it's going to be pretty easy to get the point. And this is a kind of conceptual analysis of the word church or parish. So I'm going to read it because our other students don't have the advantage of being able to see it. So pardon my reading, which you can read for yourselves. Why should the parish be a focal point and ultimately a unit of analysis for a course about church? Let me offer the following as an explanation. The parish is the place most likely to be accessible, open, non-discriminatory for its people to experience a sense of religious belonging. Here the author is trying to say why he wants to use parish as a way of analyzing the church. It's a place where most Roman Catholics come for spiritual renewal. It's a place of public worship where individual members can form a bonded fellowship around the preaching of the Word of God and the receiving of the sacraments. Like other theoreticians and practitioners, I regard the parish to be the place where most Catholics believers come to experience this phenomenology we call church. Makes sense, right? So the author here is saying, hey, look, when we talk about church, I want us first to think about the parish, because my work is to talk about this group of people who come together and form a unit of belonging, a community of belonging, who identify themselves as a faith people together and collectively. And he's going on to say, it's really the place where people first experience this quote-unquote theme I call church, where they can best experience it, say, because it's the place where they are most likely to be accessible, open, and non-discriminatory for people to experience the sense of religious belonging. So he wants us to be thinking about the parish church. So then he goes on to say, here I'm using the more comprehensive communal and sociological meaning for the word church. See, what he's going into is he wants to make sure that his readers have a clear understanding as to when he uses the word church, he has a very particular idea in mind and why he wants that idea to be used. I'm using it to mean the entirety of a community or organization. So when he uses the word parish church or church, he means I want you to be thinking about everybody there. I'm referring to the coalition or association of individuals with a particular faith life organized as parish, diocese, and national conference. I'm also proposing that of those entities, the one that is most representative of the community where Catholic people experience the communal sense of church is the parish, or the parish church. So you see how the author is weaving us through his idea and helping us to understand conceptually what he means when he's using the word church, particularly as it applies to a parish. Now, he ain't leaving much wiggle room to be thinking about parishes. Let's see, what do we got here? Haven. Or, well, maybe Stanley to some degree. Or renewal. Although renewal is part of what happens in a parish. He's not leaving a lot of wiggle room. He's tightening down the way in which the word is used conceptually, so that there's very not likely to be a lot of misunderstanding as to how to use the word. And in a footnote, you're going to see it even really worked out more profoundly. The parish is the principal place in the church where a group of people come to know each other long enough to call each other by name, and also to discover common elements of each other's faith life together. It's a place to gather, to deliberate upon common experiences, and to share the meaning of experiences. Hey, doesn't that make sense? To me, it does. Parish church is the place where I'm most apt to get to know who people are as people, to get to know them personally, to work with them, and to be able to share what's in my heart about faith. So he wants us to be drawing down more exclusively on this notion of church as it is understood and experienced in parish life. Now, let's look at the footnote he's got, because you're going to love the footnote. Now we're really getting into this philosophy, the philosophical analysis. When using the word church in this course, I am most often referring to the body and organization of religious believers. Now watch what he starts doing. He starts giving counterexamples. I am not, except when indicated, referring to, Tim, an architectural structure of a church building. I am not using the term to indicate a liturgical happening, as in the case of a person saying, I'm going to church. And meaning participation in public worship. I will not be equating the word church with a hierarchical figure like the Pope, or with structures of authority, as in the case of a person saying, the church wouldn't let me. You see how he's crafting for the reader a very clear understanding of the meaning. He's even saying, look, when I use the word church, I am not talking about the Pope or the bishop, like people will sometimes mean when they say the church wouldn't let me. Not what I'm referring to here, folks. My use of the word church is not to intimate hierarchy, clergy, doctrine, or canon law. I'm not reducing the word church, as in the aforementioned cases, to the discrete facets of its organization or social function, particularly when applied to structures of authority. To be sure, the church, because it is a community, will necessarily include hierarchy or authority. It will include defining and identifying doctrine and a system of law. These features are just constitutive of what a community is and what a community does. But that's not what I'm interested in. My use of the word church embraces the entirety of that social organization, particularly as it applies to the whole of its people. So when we talk about the Church of Holy Cross, there ain't no question about what the author is intending us to think. He's not thinking about the edifice, the place we come together. He's not thinking and doesn't want us to be thinking that he's talking about the pastor or the use of the church in any way. He really wants us to be thinking simply about the people who gather here, who come to understand their faith life by their mutual orientation and association with each other and everybody. Did you see how he got us there? That's the point. That's the work of the philosopher. To some degree, it's unpacking the ordinary. Now, trust me, there are times my friends and my family won't talk. Because I'll ask them the question, when they use a word, what do you mean by that? Because as a person trained in philosophy, I want to make sure I got a clear understanding of what they mean when they're using that word. Because like we've seen right here already, the word semantically can have different usage in different circumstances. So, and I know that when a person is expressing themselves, for example, I presume it's with authenticity and transparency, so I'm not going to get at whether they mean what they mean because they're not honest. I want to know what they mean because I'm smart enough to know, or aware enough, I should say, to know, that when I hear that word, I may be thinking one thing when they're really thinking something else. So trust me, gentlemen and sister, if you start using that with your sisters around the dinner table, what do you mean by that? And you do that often enough, people will stop talking. And yet, in reality, seriously, that is the work. So part of what I'm trying to help you to do at the very beginning, even before we get into how Plato thinks and how Plato uses his thinking, and how the church has then embraced it and used it as a way to help us unpack our faith, which is what Sister's going to help us with. I'm going to say the tools themselves, we've got to understand what's going on. They only have one primary tool. That's called language. Words. And when a lot of people will say, oh, that's just semantics. And they're going to say, oh, no. This is far more than semantics. Now, I'll bet if we went off right now and left this here, we could come up with 100 to 100,000 different examples in our own lives where these quote unquote semantics or the issues of philosophy that happen in everyday life have been a conundrum to you, whether it's with your children, your wife, your employees, or your employer. I will bet $1,000 to a penny. You could say, yep, I was in just the other day and we were in that boardroom and the guy said this, and I presume he meant this, he really meant something else. Because he was using the word in a particular way that I assumed he meant it differently. So let me stop there, because I do have a little bit more. Oh my God, I can't believe it. Let's just open this up for conversation. Because in some ways, you know, it's simple and it's fun, but it's also, I know, complex, and it takes time to really absorb it. By the way, I'm going to give you guys an exercise to actually help you try to work with this whole work of philosophy that we're getting into tonight. Well, let's just stop here. What I'm saying to you, and I hear you, see, watch you, you know, waving your head up and down, and I can see clearly that you're getting what I'm saying, but I want to know what's in your mind and your heart. Like some people want to say, oh, this is all interesting and might even be fun, but what the heck does this have to do with my faith? Or faith life? That might be a simple question that you might want to raise. Is there something else? Talk to me.
So philosophy should probably be taught as part of the marriage plan. So that.
You might all divorce yourselves in
What do you
3
mean
hours
by that?
instead. What do you mean by that?
Yeah.
Well, I would say this. I have found in my personal life that I'm not as apt to ask the question, but I am apt to pursue the idea. What's that person mean by that? And to me, that's saying I'm taking them serious enough and they're important enough that I really want to get at their heart and mind, and not just what I presume.
Right. Which to me is the whole purpose of what you're saying. You know, somebody says church, what does that other person
Right.
mean? Well, years ago, when I was in one of my psychology classes, they had two people talking. Each person had a bubble over their head, what they thought as they were describing a particular type of dog.
Right.
And at the end, they were talking about two totally different animals.
Right.
So that's kind of what I'm getting at.
Exactly. And then you start applying it to faith. Something is deep and profound and mysterious. And yet the only tool that we've got to think about faith and to express faith is language and concepts. Now, if you're to ask me, hey, Father, you mean to tell me if I don't go through this process or don't understand it, that I can't have faith in someone else? Just the opposite. Trust me. I've seen children. I've seen people who are severely and profoundly mentally handicapped. I've seen people who lost their capacity for language. I've known them who had deep and profound faith, probably more than me. But to be able to reflect on it cognitively, mentally, requires language and concepts. What I want to say is, I don't think the human condition is able to fall in love with God or fall in love with their church without wanting to know and understand more about it. And as soon as we start going down that path, gentlemen, we're using language and concepts. No way out of it.
I did a research for our last class was on the Trinity.
Yep.
And so I read a lot more than I probably really had to. I'm still finishing up some of the books. And really it goes right back to Plato and the whole, so it's going back, to that and how it changes right after Augustine to St.
Right.
Thomas. And it's an interesting transition to see where the understanding
That's
changes.
right.
And so when I actually read this morning something goes up, which is the Law of Three, the Holy Trinity, and I'm in the middle of that book. And I have read the outline for this, that ties is so perfect to what we're doing, because it's how we have gotten away from or are changing our what it means to us, the Trinity.
And I'm going to go back to the problems that really exist in our culture that you're going to be struggling against. One of the things I would say that you're more importantly to me, and I would really invite Sister, because she's really the person I defer to totally have great love and respect for. My thought when it comes to the spiritual life faith, the real deep faith, like with my relationship with God. You know, I like to, I mean, I enjoy the challenge of figuring out what a person is doing when they are reflecting on their faith and doing theology. Because I know they go at it from their own point of view and their own process of thought. And to weasel my way into their thought is fun.
Right.
Say. And if it's a major theologian, I want to say, gee, I think I grasp how they're coming at this and what they mean by it. But then I want to ask myself, but do I believe that? And does it say something to me? That's the really important question at the end of it all. It's what's in your heart. Because I really believe that God is intimately present to you with each one of you. And therefore, as you enter into this world of reflection, you may see it differently. You may come to understand it differently. And I'm going to encourage you not to back away from it. In fact, if I were your teacher in that class, I would say, hey, I welcome, I want to know, because I make it another view of how God works in this world by looking through your eyes about this specific issue. Presuming that I can't possibly have it all. That is the cathartic point. Because we're in process of this thought. Yeah.
As you're talking about this, it seems to me in our modern day culture, this is one of the biggest things that's lacking. People have taken a position
Right.
and they're not open to exploring other people's thought processes
You got it.
or how
Other
it comes
minds.
to their minds.
Right.
So we polarize ourselves,
Exactly right.
compartmentalize ourselves, and we are not willing to listen or even think or even accept that there's another point of view.
Right, exactly. Partly because we'll become entrapted in our own word and our own concept, as if to suggest there's no other possible way of representing the meaning of that outside of it. One of the things that I know Sister, and certainly I, struggle with what's called the scholastic method, which we'll get into the Aristotelian method, is that it's so definitive, it so locks things in, that it doesn't really always permit people to think outside of the box. It becomes terribly problematic. I can't get into it now. We will, as the course unfolds. It doesn't mean that there's great meaning and great import in the scholastic system. There is. But the point is, it's not the end-all and be-all. And if the only way you can come at it, you're never going to be able to appreciate your love seat knowledge. Dusty?
The phrase that I've been probably hearing over the years, particularly with the large higher ed institutions, is pursuing the truth.
Right.
You know, and this kind of sheds. This is that statement is a very philosophical statement.
It is.
Right.
Well, I mean, that's Jesus before Pilate. Pilate was asking the ultimate philosophical question. Truth? What is truth? That's our pursuit in the world of philosophy, is to try to pursue what is the truth, but it's the presumption that is a process, number one. And the second thing, if you're going to come at it from the Aristotelian point of view, is that what we are observing maybe give us by its appearance a certain perception that isn't actually totally, and that's the courage. So he would say, to give an example, you know, we're in the Appian Way, or whatever way would be down there, and wouldn't be the Appian Way, it's I don't know, but whatever, the Appian Way, and there's a chariot that's running down a child who had paddled into the Appian Way, and some observer sees the child, and at peril of his own life, runs out and grasps the child and pulls it away just at the moment that the chariot came to run it down and almost ran this person saving the child down. And there's, laurel crown that's put on the person's head. How courageous to actually do. But this would be an Aristotelian twist. It's to say, afterwards, the guy says, yeah, but I never saw the chariot. I just thought that was an unsafe place for a child. He really do a courageous thing. They appear to be courageous. But Aristotle would say a courageous person is a person who does courageous things, is courageous people do that. he must have, to be courageous, have sent some peril to his own life and transcended that. Or he didn't really do something courageous. Might have done something very noble. So he went on to say, what is the thing appeared to be as compared to what it actually is?
I love the one on the model.
Oh, yeah, we're gonna get to that.
That was great.
Because we're gonna get to now, the last part of the class, I want to talk to, here's the problem again. So I know I'm painting with broad brush, but I know there's specificity here and you guys got it. And you get the point of what we're getting here. And why this is important before you get into sister class and subsequently Aristotle and scholasticism in my class later on. It's this whole process of what a philosopher does. And the point of words, why they're important, and concepts. Now I'm going to tell you why all the more you're going to have a hard time with it. Okay? So I'll begin with a story. Remember what I told you about Tom Green and what's his name in the story that
Ralph Ketchum.
Ralph Ketchum. Ralph Ketchum was a brilliant and internationally known historian, prolific writer. And he was an excellent storyteller and lecturer. So I had the honor and the privilege of participating with what's called all university forums, where they would have department heads and some select graduate students that would be working interdisciplinary, and they would bring in major scholars from throughout the world. They might have an economist one time. You know, the way it would go is the economist would give a hour-and-a-half presentation. We'd have lunch in the afternoon and all about questions the person against some of his economic perspective, or a historian. In this case, they said, well, why should we go, to some university when we got Ralph Ketchum right here? So Ralph Ketchum is giving his presentation, and his closest friend, who's a philosopher, Tom Green, is in the audience. These guys vacation together, played golf together, they were just the closest of friends. And in the middle of his presentation, he used the word virtue, but not in a tight way. He basically said, that was a really virtuous thing. That was a really good thing. And Tom interrupted him. He says, Ralph, he said, you're using the word virtue when you were giving your presentation. I found that uncomfortable. And Ralph said, well, what was the problem, Tom? He says, well, it was not the way in which the word virtue is used in the academic world, and certainly not by philosophers. You just meant it in a kind of colloquial way, like, it's something good. He spoke. Tom, he says, you know what I mean when I'm using the word virtue, like that. And Tom said, this is the closest friend. That's the problem in the world today. It's the slovenly use of language. They went bad. And this is like 70, 80 people, the best scholars in the university. And it was like, So then Ralph was on with his presentation. In the afternoon, it was really funny. Tom had to leave for something else, and he's answering questions. And in response to the question, he starts to say, well, this bird. He looks around, he goes, is Tom here? Everybody's like, no, he's not. He's all good. That's kind of a virtuous thing. Here's the problem that came out of that sentence. You got a very tight-thinking philosopher who's not comfortable at all about other great scholars using words, as he gets stumbling. He wants them tight. He thinks that we have an obligation and responsibility in the academic world to be careful about our use of words. We should have such a command of language that we should have a multiple lexicon of words that we can appeal to and draw from, so that we're very specific when we use it. But the problem that Ralph shows us is that we're living in this world of casualness and casual use of language. And quite frankly, it makes it difficult for teachers and preachers, and all of us who are trying to do this kind of work. So now let's take a look at this article on why nothing is wrong anymore, because I really love it. Please, Tim.
I would also say that we're also dealing with the consequences of a language that is an imprecise language. The English language
Isn't itself imprecise?
is an imprecise language. It's a conglomeration of all sorts of different sources, which is why we have so many synonyms for things.
Right.
Whereas other languages, like France, they have like a languages academy, like they,
Right.
like this is canonical French, and it does not change.
Right.
English, Google has a great service. If you look up define something, it actually show you the etymology
Right,
of the
the
word,
word
but
itself.
also the usage over time and where it should.
Exactly.
And English is
Right,
notorious for this.
Let me give you a perfect example of that. But then I want to come back and I want to draw out your profession as to the struggle that we have in a culture trying to do what you do, knowing that language is exactly what it's all about in your world. But to give you an example of what he's saying is if I said to you, that's awful. Gee, that's awful. What's the immediate sense that you got about that? It's what? Give me a word. It's bad. It's what? It's terrible. Yet in the 14th century, in Old English, and then full of awe. So when I say that to you, what does it mean? It's awesome. It has a whole different context of use something great. So you got this whole, in this case, not misuse of the language, but the development of the language, and also the openness of the language to not only develop, but to be transformed, even in its recent meaning, in 5 or 600 years. So that's exactly the point that he's making. Part of the struggle we have as English-speaking people. But I think there's something more going on in the culture which I want to get into. But I want to draw you up because you've got so much to help us with this. Because in your world of teaching technology, it seems to me that the little bit I learned, I used to be an awe, for example, when I first got into computers and I wanted some customer service. And some people were incredibly capable of explaining the most complex things in a way that made perfect sense easily. The facility that they had was remarkable. And you get somebody else where they just couldn't, there's no way they can explain something like it, especially in the hardware. I was basically upgrading hardware, that was no DOS layers. And to be able to do that without a blackboard and to do it all in language over the phone, I was sometimes The point it left me with is this world and this profession around technology today is really something profound. How you do that to a class is interesting to me, let's put it that way. Not to mention the manuals, the DOS manuals, that were crazy to try to understand the way they were written, But what would be the problem today in your teaching, your work, your profession, teaching IT information to people, the way in which we use language today? I would suspect that it's got to be even more difficult for you as an instructor. I would suspect that because of the way in which people use language and how casual they are. I don't know. I just wonder if that is the case or not.
Well, certainly for some of the courses I teach where you have to do coding, a computer, artificial intelligence side, computers do what we tell them to do. There's an expression in the program called GIGO, G-I-G-O, garbage in, garbage out. That if you give an imprecise instruction, the computer will not understand it. And in introductory programming, I do this all the time, where someone will mistype something or leave a semicolon off or a parenthesis or a closing brace. The human being reading it can read past those things and understand what you had meant it to do. But when it goes to run on the computer, the compiler interprets that and goes, error. And they'll start with it. You point out, oh, you missed a semicolon on line 14, and it always comes back, well, that's stupid.
Right.
No. The computer did exactly what you told it to do.
It's very precise.
Yeah.
It's a precise use of its language that you're using.
And that's, I always use the example of a recipe. I said, if you gave Emeril Lagasse or Julia Child a junk recipe, and you said, follow this, in spite of being a fantastic chef, if they follow a junk recipe with steps missing, it's going to turn out horrible. They're following what's there. And so the computer doesn't do things better than humans. It just does it faster.
And it requires absolute precision. In our world, and you've already alluded to it, in our world, I'll bet with young people, it's hard to get them because we are just so casual about everything. Use of language. I would imagine it's a discipline that they have to acquire, and it's not easy to acquire given where they're coming from.
Especially with the advent of first instant messaging, but then moving to texting where people abbreviate, how are you doing? Like what really are you? Those kinds of things. No capitalization, no punctuation, things that, the rules that we taught in elementary school about precision in grammar and spelling have gone out the window with these technologies. So now to enforce that kind of structure for a machine that needs it, because it is really creating a disconnect.
Mike?
Tony Miller says, this is why I like Latin.
Yeah, right. The trouble with Latin is that it no longer is able to, Tony, it no longer can convey ideas and concepts that are relative to our modern world. It's a dead language. It died 2,000 years ago, or actually about 15. So while it's locked in and it's precise, it doesn't do the job in terms of our capacity to communicate with each other in the modern world. It just doesn't. That's its problem.
Remember, what was it? My son Sean,
Yeah.
when he was a young kid, had done something somebody done before him. In a moment of just frustration, I said, how many times do I have to tell you? Stop it. 10? Because at that point, he hadn't been exposed enough to become slovenly. Every question deserved an answer.
That's right.
Didn't understand that, this was just an open-ended statement of my frustration. He took it as, let me think about this. I would have to say 10. Culturally, we damage people as they get older and inflict on them this slovenly use of language, if you will. Yes.
So let me go back to the counterpart that Tony makes, and I would invite Tony and all of you to read yesterday's collect, opening prayer and closing prayer for Mass. Because because the Missal today no longer uses what's called a dynamic translation, which is open to the fact that language changes and try to convey the meaning rather than the specific translation of the word.
Translation versus
Transliteration, that's exactly right. So just take a look, Tony, and any of you, at the opening prayer and tell me how difficult it is. Like you're doing handstands around the language. You can't help but trip over it because it's a transliteration. It's a problem with Latin in our particular world. What the Missal does is a transliteration of those original Latin prayers. But because it's not a dynamic translation, or in other words, it's not open to the fact that we're in a different culture now and things have changed and developed. Our problem as preachers, as clergy, as theologians, is to do the work that we're called to do, then the theologian is called to do. It's to present the faith in a way that is meaningful, understandable, appreciable, and prayerful, without contradicting the basic theme of faith. That's our job. Every time you get up there to preach, you're trying to take what the church has always taught, but to present it to people in a way, concepts and ideas that they can understand, without doing injustice or without contradicting the basic faith. So let me show you how that happened in secondary. Go ahead. This is truth. Yeah.
The truth is the truth. The evolution of words and people's understanding of those kinds of meaning.
Right.
Sometimes they can bang on that truth in its virginity. It's tough.
It could be tough, and it could be incomplete with certain matters. Or let's put it this way: there might be a deeper and richer way of understanding that if you take the time and effort to try to appreciate how people understand, think, and communicate today. Let me give you a perfect example. We all know that in the Nicene Creed, there's been recapturing the word consubstantial, right? Okay. Now, the basic thing it's working with is a problem it's brought out of a third and fourth century Christological heresies and problems that are going on. But one of the particular questions has to do with the word homoousia, or how we understand the relationship, as we talked already, in the fundamental theology, between the humanity and divinity of Christ. How is it possible? So, homoousia is a Greek word, and it's H-O-M-O, and then there's the word iota and O-U-S-A, the substantial of what we're dealing with. So you sometimes hear, it makes an iota of a difference. It's because without the iota, the meaning of the dynamic relationship between the two natures of Christ becomes altered. So it's a problem. But the word that was used to try to explain it more practically, more theologically, and more specifically in the 4th century is homoousia, H-O-M-O-I-O-U-S-A. Okay? We're going to get into Christology next week. The Second Vatican Council takes exactly the same concern to present to the people of God an understanding of who Jesus Christ is as the expression of the Father. But listen to the words. It doesn't use the word homoousia. It refers to Jesus as now listen to this, right out of the Council doctrine, out of the doctrine in there. It refers to Jesus Christ as the personal self-communication of the God. Look at the words I just used. Who is this Christus? Who is Jesus? He's the personal self-communication of the Father. Meaning exactly the same thing. But put into an expression that is more understandable and meaningful, I think, and richer for modern day mindset and culture. It's a dynamic interpretation of that same theological person. It's not communication, but to me, that just immediately hears it to what the church is trying to convey to us. And yet, from a theologian point of view, it doesn't contradict at all. If you start to think about it, we're going to that. What was meant in the 4th century expression? It's the same thing, but definitely language that's going to engage you from that. To some degree, that's our job. Yeah, go for it.
There's a comment from Guillermo,
Go for it.
Spanish speaking.
Yeah.
Because his native language is Spanish, working in a world where he's going to be dealing with congregations,
Right.
and with you guys, if you will.
Right.
What can he do to make his English skills become better so that he understands
Right.
and is able to communicate
Right.
his words? How does he overcome an impediment like that? Or any of us?
Well, actually, we'd be happy to work with him, but I also would caution with this. Because it seems to me, Guillermo, that the Lord has called you to serve your people within your own culture, as well as the English-speaking people. And the caution is this: the more you get into our expression of meaning with the English language, while it might help you professionally, it might even help you socially, it's more apt to make it even more difficult for you to be able to share your faith in Spanish with your own people. Let me give you an example, if you don't mind. It's not exactly parallel, but it's pretty close. I once had, as a musician, when I was a pastor down in Tully, Mitch Jonas, who couldn't read or write a word, a note. But he had perfect pitch, and he could play anything on his guitar, anything. And he was gifted. All he had to do was hear it once. Could be the most complex, classical guitar, and he could play it. He was gifted. So I said to him, Mitch, you give us, so much, and you won't take any remuneration for every Sunday getting up with your guitar. And where our congregation was moved, this guy was really, really, really good. he could play classical pieces and was translated into church music. It was unbelievable. I said, look, I said, I know that you don't read music. I said, so, if you want, I said, I would be willing to have the church pay for music lessons for you to go to learn how to read music. He said, what? I said, absolutely. I said, you give us a gift and this, we could really give that to you, and it only can help us. So, in fact, we got one of the better instrumental musician teachers in the area. And he's driving up to Syracuse University. The guy's teaching him. Dale's teaching him. She calls me on the phone in this fourth lesson. And she said, Father, with all due respect, I'd like to terminate my work with your student, or with my student, your parishioners. Why is that? She said, I want to tell you right now. She said, what I'm teaching him will wreck his gift. He said, I would be taking your money and I'll wreck his gift. Now, as a musician, you probably can help me understand that better.
Well, as a musician, Guillermo's an excellent classical guitarist. He will understand that.
Yeah.
I always think about the story of the kid that went to work for an insurance company, knew nothing about sales. They didn't have a training class, came up and said, just go out and talk to people.
Yeah.
And he went out and talked to people and became so successful because he didn't know how to sell, and it wasn't about selling. When they trained him, he turned into a failure because they took his natural ability of talking to people and just focusing on the person, and they made him focus on the product. When they focused on the product, he couldn't sell anything. So it's that same people that have a gift, and they need to just use it and express it. And we sometimes, we being society, say, oh, no, you've got to learn how to read music. You've got to learn how to do this.
Right.
When they should be teaching us how to feel it.
I worry sometimes, Guillermo, as simple as this. I love you. We love you. We've been blessed by your coming into our community. You edify us, both by the faith you bring to us from your culture and by the person you are. But I would worry somewhat that if you felt you had to anglicize that somehow it could limit or maybe even undermine your capacity to truly preach and teach to your people, and maybe even to us. I almost want to hear it out of your conceptual framework and not ours. That's just my thought. But I definitely would give you someone to work with you happily, like Dr. Crystal Exel. She's done that, and she would be happy to help you. And we'd be happy to provide that service for you, and we'll talk about it. But the only thing I want to say is be careful. Beware.
Anthony Miller asks about sloppy language, but doesn't sloppy language encourage sloppy theology?
No doubt about it, Tom. I don't, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I'm just saying that there's no easy out by turning everything to Latin. I won't do it for you.
That was close.
We're really fighting, Tony, is a cultural war. So let me get to it. Let's take a look at these next two things. Why nothing is wrong anymore. And I presume you all read it, so I'm not going to read through it. I just want to point out what the author is. By the way, this is something I picked up 30 years ago, and I've kept it for 30 years. It was either Newsweek or Time Magazine. But I was just so taken with it. I mean, her point was right on target. There's nothing right and wrong anymore. Now things are right and stupid, right? Oh, yeah, it's just a stupid thing to do. It's not that it's wrong, it's stupid. Or the other thing she points out too, and gets into it really well, is it's right, but it's not necessarily unconstitutional. So, that means it's not really wrong because it's not necessarily unconstitutional. It's just to say that something that's not unconstitutional may not also be wrong. So, we're talking about moral concepts here. It's right and sick. That's a big one today. Because I myself have seen it as, and I really believe this, that there's a lot of times that I will excuse people from taking responsibility and accountability because I know their psychology predisposes them to certain behaviors.
I see that in the school.
Sure.
The school kid does something wrong,
Right.
but it's not wrong because maybe they come from the lower socioeconomic region, they didn't have breakfast, we say, oh, so they're hungry. Or, they come from a split home, so, well, we got a chip tree. Everything is treated different. There's no set. It could be a wrong act, but it's not judged the same anymore.
Right. So from my point of view, here's the point of what the article's getting at is this. it seems to me that it would be more appropriate to say, I understand the person's background and context, and I don't want to be judgmental of that individual. In fact, I want to reach out to help them in any way I can to grow and heal in their circumstance. But at the same time, isn't it incumbent upon you to be able to identify something as being wrong, regardless of who or why it was perpetrated? Okay. Or are we incapable of that anymore? Because that's what this is leading to. Or it's just right and complex. It can't be wrong because it's too complex. Okay. So, and I put that out in what I gave to you guys as well. I believe I kind of said that the problem is that, in that second page, now the proper use of words may seem so fundamental that here we're reverting to first grade study. I'm going to get at that in the Humpty Dumpty thing. But in fact, we of the adult world regularly misuse or fail to differentiate words so that our expressions can easily become vague and even confusing. And if we look at that, why nothing is wrong anymore, it illustrates how we as a society have moved away from moral concepts and moral thinking simply by substituting the word wrong with the word stupid or sick or complex. We're moving away from the moral examination. So I remember my mom used to do this to me all the time. I loved her. She was absolutely great. We just had to know her. First of all, she was a seamstress. She was very, very intelligent. She was a seamstress and all this. Everything she did with a certain degree of perfection. It just had to be right, And I always loved that about her. When we were taking her home from the hospital, for example, for her last few days of life, and he brought her to live with me. We brought her into the room where she was staying, and she looked up on the wall, and clearly the woman's only a few days away from breathing her last breath, and she noticed that the picture on the wall was just a little askew. And she said, we need to go over and straighten the picture out. That was my mother. It had to be right. It's just the way she was. It was her nature. She wanted things to be right, and always had to work at doing it. I remember as a child, she once said to me, Louis, things cannot be both right and wrong at the same time. You can't be both right and wrong. So you tell me which one you are, and then I'll tell you which one you are. Well, here's the thing. Like everybody else in this world, I was testing the limits and trying to figure out, and sometimes I still do. But deep within myself, I know there are boundaries. And there's a point in which when you cross those boundaries, you can't consider yourself in the right moral frame of context, no matter how you are. But our language is pushing us in a particular kind of way. That's the problem. That's what I'm getting at. And that's why the philosophical process is very important for those of us who are in this room today. I love this thing from Humpty Dumpty, and I'm going to just give you two examples as to how this problem of words is working out even in our doctrine or theology in a minute. It comes from Through the Looking Glass. And, it's one of the things that I got to tell you, in terms of Lewis Carroll's work, is perhaps my favorite passage, where, Humpty Dumpty said in a rather scornful tone, "It means just what I chose it to mean, neither more nor less. The question is else, whether you can make words mean so many different things." He was actually presenting in this first grade child school, one of the most complex points of philosophy. Words can't mean just anything. And the slovenly use of language is a real problem for us. Or maybe slovenly is too strong. How about the casual use? So let me give you an example. In my own world, my sense of my faith and my relationship with God is always rooted in love. And I always come back to that. The God who loves me unconditionally and without merit, without limits. It's awesome. But when I use that word love, I know it means one thing and it cannot mean something else. love certainly means respect. If you say you love your partner, your beloved, it can't mean disrespect, can it? You say I love this person, but I prefer to disrespect them. Does that make sense? Does it make sense to say I'll love this person, but I'll treat them with disdain? See what I'm saying? When you start looking at that word conceptually, it's got to mean one thing, and it cannot mean something else. So to some degree, this is a really important theme, and it really represents what's going on in our own culture at times, from my point of view. Yeah, please do.
Jump in on it. It's interesting you choose that example.
Yeah.
Love, because in our language, we have this one umbrella word of love. So when you say it can't mean one, it can mean one thing, but it can't mean another. Love is interesting because when you start going theologically with love, and you go back to Greek expressions
Right.
and other cultures where we have brotherly love,
There-
romantic love, where like for us in English, we put all this all
Under one love, because in fact, there's 4 different words.
Right,
Eros, agape, those are different words.
right, and that's why I mean, when you say it means one thing but not another, again, this is contextual meaning
Yeah,
of if, you know, in terms of saying like, I love you, or to
Right.
someone, or I love this
right.
movie, I love this food, you know, that we're talking totally, that one word can encompass different things, but it's the context of what you mean and not.
Let me put it in the scriptural context. When Jesus says, greater love than this, no man has than that man is to lay down his life for you. Does he give, really wiggle room as to what the word is supposed to mean? There's no doubt that you're right, that the word is used and misused and used in many different ways. I think so too. And again, it's from my vantage point, it's somewhat the casual or seldom abuse of the word. Hopefully you got something coming up.
Guillermo,
Oh.
first, thank you for the answer for his first question.
You're welcome.
Can you say, I love you, I don't like you? I love you.
Uh-huh.
Say, he says, he's heard it said so many times, he's guilty of saying it too. Can you be right and wrong? You're telling something.
Yeah.
Your child, I guess. I
Yeah.
love you. I don't like you right now.
But I love it. And what would the word mean? But I agree. I think you can say that. And I totally agree with what you're saying about the context. Identifying specifically the meaning in that particular circumstance. Yeah, it does. But I still would say, are there things that love can never be? So then, we would have to conclude that there are things that love can never mean. That love has got to mean something, and it just can't mean anything. Now that may seem like, being but it's an important concept. It really is. It's got to mean something, and it just can't mean anything. I mean, so for example, you turn on General Hospital. I don't know if it's still on television. But they use that word love all the time. But the word they use that word would never mean what I would understand. It's the way in which the word has come to be applied in all these different dynamics. Or like what you said, is love simply about I would think that and simply that the parents say love can't mean disdain, disrespect, hate, disregard. Can't mean that.
I think if you understand love is one of the goals of mother, who's that is they have reference, give context, then it helps to distinguish if somebody else is using the word love in its good definition.
Here's the point. We stumbled into the world of concepts. The word love is a concept. It's representing a concept. It's not representing a thing. And to really get at it, in terms of my own meaning, I would have to take some time to identify it in some kind of analytical way, saying, look, when I use the word love, I mean this, and I sure don't mean I'd like to suggest, John, that even in our homilies, not that you want to spend your whole homily, but you may want to occasionally say a particular word that's really important, but punctuate it. You may want to say, now look at folks, when I'm using this word, this is what I mean, but I really don't mean that.
Going back to
Yeah.
Duncan.
Yeah.
You raised the question that words cannot mean something else when you said that. Do you mean that from a cultural standpoint, that if we've all agreed on this word meaning this pool of definitions,
Right.
therefore I cannot corrupt that word by using this? Or do you mean that at some really raw root level, a word in and of itself cannot be, because if we culturally
Right.
agree, you know, I made up some nonsense word for table,
Right, then.
and
it
then
would
we
mean that.
started using it,
It would mean that.
it would mean that.
But the point is, you've got to be right on the target with that. What I'm suggesting is that there's what we call in philosophy an ontology to the language. And if you don't have an ontology to the language, then the problem is, you're like Alice, you wonder. You have to never be sure of what you mean or don't. If you can make up these words to mean anything you want.
What is that word?
Ontology. In other words, in its essence, the word means something in a way that it cannot be corrupted. It's just meaning.
I had, in terms of precise language,
Yeah.
I had raised this with one of my classes, and I said, not that I would ethically ever condone this,
Mhm.
but what if you raised a child with opposite words?
Right.
So
That's
totally
a very
from birth,
interesting.
that you said left was right, right was
Left.
left, up and down, completely
Right.
reversed. Again, I'm not condoning this, but
But it's a very
but
good point.
does right actually mean, does the word right convey something?
Right.
Or would that child grow up and just knowing, say, oh, turn right here, take your left?
Exactly.
And so that's why I'm saying that can words truly mean anything, or based on ontology, do they somehow in and of themselves carry something?
Within the cultural context, they have to mean something and not something else. Right. You're correct. As I would see it, and at the same time, I would totally acquiesce to you and say, outside of that cultural context, it could be, reported to be something, have some other meaning to it. But you and I have to agree as to what it means, or our culture does. And if I start misusing it in a different way, then it is the problem of Duncan, and we're really living in the unknown. We have no idea what we're talking about or what we would try to do.
It was like Superman. Did you ever read Superman comics when you were a kid? And Superman went to Bizarro. Remember this? And it was a world, and somehow he ended there, and the same people that he knew in regular world were in Bizarro world, but everything was the opposite. And it only frustrated him, because culturally, they were all on board with what right, wrong, left, right. They were fine with it. It's that one person that is the odd man out, or the odd gal out.
I don't have
That's
it,
the problem.
I don't have it here, I'll send it to you. If through this whole thing, for the looking glass, there's this whole other section where they get in, where the guy, Humpty Dumpty gets into creating his own language. He had no idea what the heck he's trying to express. None whatsoever. Pointing out the problem that you have when you start, futzing around with the basic meaning of the language. From what I would use the word ontological, what it essentially would mean. But if we would presume that at least within our culture and our sharing with each other, a word's got to mean one thing and it can't mean something else, then because if it starts to mean almost anything else, especially if it can mean its opposite, then there's no way at all that we can convey an idea and then give away the true notion of what we're trying to understand.
It's okay, we'll say, Francis, preach the gospel, use words if you have.
If you have,
You know.
Yeah.
let me show you a problem we get into, just so you know that we aren't just playing games here semantically. That Pope speaks, that one section that I couldn't get the whole thing, is really important because it's part of this the terminology problem is part of what came out of the Congregation for the Clergy and the instruction in certain questions regarding the collaboration of non-ordained people in the sacred ministry of priests. So if you're interested in reading it, it's, August 1997, 15th of August. And there was an instruction that came out because the word ministry was being used in almost any given way. So it got to be, what do we mean when we're using the word ministry? So now, I'm not so sure that I'm real comfortable with the congregation was trying to do this, is that to suggest that ministry can only be used relative to the ordained ministry, and that other people are also doing ministry. But I did get their point. Their point is that we're using the word so casually in almost any circumstance that, the guy who was putting incense into the boat had a ministry. And we really were getting to that point. Is that really what a ministry is? And if you look at what the word means essentially, or at least from where the church would be coming from, I want to say essentially, you're when you broaden it so that it became very difficult to identify what it means and you follow what I'm saying? So I put that in there just to show you that they got into this whole issue about the term ministry, and they're struggling with exactly the problem that we're talking about here in the everyday use today, or the world of philosophy is what they're like now. So there's another example. Look at it. We're getting
This
close
from
to the
the
end.
one more comment from Guillermo.
Go
Is that
for
why
it.
Jesus said, "Say no when you mean no, your yes should mean yes, no more, no less."
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I haven't thought about that. Let me think about it. Is that what you meant?
You stumped him, Guillermo.
Let me think about that. Look at what I've done in the past when I've given this is I've also given an exercise that I want to encourage you all to consider. It's to do your own conceptual analysis, clarification. And what you may want to do is to pick out a concept, a word that represents a concept, that's important to you. And then list all of the words, like a lexicon, that reinforce the meaning of the word as you understand it. And then also list all the words that suggest something different than the meaning of the word as you understand it. So, you're both putting together synonyms and antonyms and doing that. And then I would invite you to try to write a conceptual analysis about the term from your own point of view. And I'll even give you something that I've gotten from guys along the way. Let's see if I can come up with something. What they don't do in this is they tell you what a word is, like forgiveness, but they don't tell you from their point of view what it isn't. It would really be very helpful if they did that. So let me give you one. Here's on forgiveness. Forgiveness is defined as giving pardon or excusing one for a fault or offense. This is a fairly common term and seemingly a simple enough concept. How often, after all, do you hear a spouse or a parent say, "Praise and forgive you"? Well, occasionally hear well-wishers often advice forgive and forget. The term is often used as a trifling discard. In our secular society, we may even hear about a debt being forgiven. We're starting to give all of these different metaphors around simple examples, should we say, around the use of the word forgiveness, which is pretty good. It's under conceptual analysis. If the latter act can occur, forgiveness must indeed be a simple and painless concept. But when we consider that forgiveness is the act of forgiving, the act of pardon, we understand that by definition, forgiveness requires effort, perhaps significant effort, particularly from grave offenses. And then he gets into, he moves off here, it almost becomes homiletic. He talks about forgiveness as a paradox, and considering our human condition, must adopt the godlike characteristics, becomes very homiletic. So he moves from doing this conceptual analysis by really doing a pretty good job about talking what forgiveness is and how it's used in a present context. If you wanted to continue on with the conceptual analysis, you should have given the reader examples of what forgiveness is not. See, from there he tells you what it is, and then he gets into the homilize. Let's do with God. That's what becomes a homily. Not that that's a bad thing.
Right.
You know, but in terms of doing a conceptual analysis, I'd ask you guys to take that, a particular word that means something to you. Do the synonyms, do the antonyms. Do enough synonyms so that you at least have what they call a complete and sufficient set. By complete, you can say, look, you need at least these 5 things, or it's incomplete. And with these 5 things, it's sufficient to get across to me that I want it to be. Complete and sufficient, okay? And then do the same thing with the antonyms. What's a set that's complete and sufficient enough to be able to say, I got enough and it's sufficient enough to be able to identify what I don't. And then just do what he did in the beginning. When we talk about forgiveness and seeing the word I forgive you, I really mean this. But make sure you also get into what you don't mean by. Trust me, it's a very good exercise. It'll help sharpen your homiletic skills. Not that you want to give a whole homily like that, because I guarantee you, you'll have your parishioners being like my family and friends, wanting to slap you in the back of the head. This is not what I want to talk about. But it's not a bad thing to do at least one thing, one part of it in a homily, but say, hey, look at folks, when I use this word forgive, this is a big word. You know, and you shouldn't use big words you don't understand. So I do mean this, and I don't mean this. That's an excellent tool. It moves us out of the casual use of language to the more specific use of concepts. That's the tool of a philosopher.
Especially in this day and age, because bastardized so many words. Everybody has their own take on this.
Any questions, thoughts? I can't believe we got 18 minutes late. Jeez. I'm so sorry.
We probably started a few minutes late, so.
Okay. Good. Happy?
Very happy.
Okay, what I'd like you to do is do that and then email it to me. I'd like to work with you guys individually first, to help you sharpen it up. I'll even give you some ideas as you go along with it. And then I'm going to ask you to share it with each other.
Do you want it in stages, like first just the list, then the full write-up, or do you want?
I would say do the whole thing as best you can where you can get synonyms and antonyms, and then, you know, try to do discursive, you know, what it means to you and what it doesn't. Yeah, what it means and what it doesn't mean. So after you've done the lexicon of synonyms and antonyms. Okay? Good. Well, thank you guys for listening and your attentiveness, and we wish you well as you really move into the real work of philosophy. I can't wait to hear Sister. She's an exceptional teacher. We're blessed to have her in the course. She edifies me in so many ways, and I really look forward to her work with us. We'll go from there.
Thank you, sister.
Yeah, thanks very much, Sister.
Tony.
God bless.
Guillermo.
July 12th. Wednesday. July 9th.
There's a set of books for you, and so there's an extra set, and Scott Harris has got a set. So
Oh, good.
Those 3 piles.
Okay.
Are looking, anticipating. By the way, here's something. I give you saying Aristotle and courage. She hasn't given me anything yet, but, you know, and the other thing too, guys, is don't be surprised if we supplement the whole thing with our own lectures, so we'll see where it goes. You know, I think probably the better of any texts that are out there. But I may get into it. Let me do my own thing, because I don't know if or you guys may want us to give them names. Let's see where it goes. But she hasn't given anything yet. Okay? And thanks for putting up with us for this introductory process.
You will. The only name there is. I did. So I did. So
the next time we'll be able to do this YouTube or,
See you later, everybody.
I think it would be ideal if we could.
Thanks for coming up, Tim.
No
Everybody
problem.
on the
Thanks for
hangout.
having me.
You're welcome.
And that way we
We're-
can interact more easily
Okay.
and have to come to a facilitator. So,
Right.
so
This stuff
And-
work though.
it does work, yeah. So we just need to finalize that we get everybody on there. What you sent me this morning really helped, but all of that you sent me this morning, they ended in September of last year.
Really?
That's what I was explaining to these guys. I thought it was so ironic
These are
that
Scotch. Do you want me to
the
hold on
first
to them?
things that we got results
No,
were
no,
not applicable
Because
to
I-
Google anymore.
I told them that
Sorry, I
But
didn't
it-
think.
I would get
But it put me on
So I
a
just
thread
let
that
them know
I was
had
able
this book and I'll
to
figure
come
out
through
how
and
to
find
get
some stuff. Maybe we'll get it done right, so.
Glad you guys are with
Thank you
us.
for your patience tonight with all this.
Thank you. Yes. let me go.
Yeah, so, good the product. So good? Fun? Yeah.
Now, what do you mean by fun?
Yeah, What do you mean by
Let's just qualify that for us, yes.
Yeah.
Trying to be careful about these, when you're driving, thinking about all this stuff. You might drive right off the road.